Welcome back to G Fun Facts Online. Today, we are embarking on a journey across time and sand, traveling to one of the most inhospitable places on Earth to uncover a secret that has been waiting for nearly 4,000 years. We are heading to the Taklamakan Desert in northwest China. The local Uyghur people call this place the place of no return, and looking at the landscape you can see why. It is a vast ocean of shifting dunes, arid, salty, and unforgiving. But right in the heart of this wasteland, specifically in the Tarim Basin, the sands have acted as a guardian for a discovery that is currently rewriting the history books. It is not a discovery of gold or weapons or lost cities, though the site we are discussing is hauntingly beautiful. No, the discovery that has the scientific community buzzing in 2024 is something far more humble. It is a necklace made of cheese. Now, I know what you are thinking. Cheese does not sound like the kind of artifact that changes our understanding of human evolution. But bear with me, because this is a story about the oldest cheese ever discovered, the mysterious mummies who wore it, and how modern technology has allowed us to resurrect the DNA of a bacteria that has been dead for millennia. This is the story of the probiotic mummy. To really understand the magnitude of this, we have to start with the people. For decades, archaeologists have been fascinated by the mummies of the Tarim Basin. These aren't like the mummies you picture from Egypt, wrapped in linen and hidden in stone pyramids. These bodies were naturally preserved by the dry, salty desert air, effectively freeze-dried by nature. The most famous site is the Xiaohe Cemetery, or Small River Cemetery. It was rediscovered back in 1934 by a Swedish archaeologist named Folke Bergman, but then it was lost to the sands again until the year 2000. When modern researchers finally returned, they found something that looked like a withered forest in the middle of the desert. The cemetery is a sandy hill covered in hundreds of erect wooden posts. Beneath those posts, the Xiaohe people were buried in boat-shaped coffins. Imagine that. In the middle of a desert, miles from any ocean, they were buried in upside-down wooden boats covered with cowhide. And when researchers opened these coffins, they came face to face with people who looked like they had just gone to sleep. One woman, known famously as the Beauty of Xiaohe, lived about 300-800 years ago. She was found wearing a tall, white felt hat that looks strikingly like a witch's hat, a woolen coat, and fur-lined boots. Her eyelashes were long and intact, and her hair flowed over her shoulders. But for 20 years, the thing that puzzled scientists the most wasn't her clothing or her preservation. It was the stuff around her neck. There were clumps of a yellowish organic substance strung like jewelry or smeared on the skin of these mummies. For 2 decades, this was just labeled as mystery goo in museum catalogs. Was it butter? Was it animal fat? Was it some kind of ritualistic body paint? Well, thanks to a study published recently by Xiaohe Fu and her team at the Chinese Academy of Sciences, we now know exactly what it was. It was the world's oldest vintage of kefir cheese. This discovery is a massive deal, not just for foodies but for geneticists and historians. You see, the Xiaohe people have always been an enigma. Physically, they don't look like what you might expect from ancient inhabitants of East Asia. They had deep-set eyes, high nose bridges, and light hair, often red or flaxen. They wore woolens that looked almost identical to Celtic tartans. For a long time, the prevailing theory was that they were migrants from the West, maybe early Indo-Europeans who had traveled from the Russian steppes or even further. But recent genomic studies on the mummies themselves dropped a bombshell. The Xiaohe people were not recent migrants. They were a genetically distinct group, descended from a population called the ancient North Eurasians. This group largely vanished after the last ice age, making the Xiaohe people a sort of ghost population. They had been isolated in the desert oases for centuries, and yet, despite their genetic isolation, they were culturally cosmopolitan. They had wheat from the west, millet from the east, and as we now know, kefir culture from the north. This brings us to the science of resurrection. I use that word deliberately because what Xiaohe Fu and her team did is the closest reality has come to Jurassic Park for microbes. The headlines talked about resurrecting the bacteria, but to be precise, they performed a feat of genomic reconstruction. The bacteria in the cheese were not alive. 600 years of laying in a salty desert had ensured they were thoroughly dead. But their DNA, the blueprint of their existence, was preserved. Extracting DNA from ancient cheese is incredibly difficult. It is exponentially harder than getting it from bone. Bacteria are fragile. Over thousands of years, their DNA shatters into millions of tiny, fragmented pieces. On top of that, the samples are usually contaminated with modern bacteria from the soil, or even from the researchers handling them. So how did they do it? The team used a technique called DNA capture. They created what are essentially molecular baits. They took strands of modern lactobacillus DNA and used them like magnets. When they mixed these baits with the ancient slurry from the mummy's necklace, the baits latched onto the matching ancient DNA fragments, allowing the researchers to pull them out of the chemical noise. The result was stunning. They managed to reconstruct a 92% complete genome of the ancient Lactobacillus kefiranofaciens. This wasn't just a fragment, it was nearly the entire instruction manual for a Bronze Age bacterium. This genome allowed scientists to place the ancient bacteria on the family tree of microbes, and what they found completely overturned the standard history of fermentation. Until this moment, the dominant theory was that kefir originated solely in the Caucasus Mountains, in what is now Russia and Georgia, and spread from there. But the probiotic mummy proved that there was a second, distinct lineage of kefir being brewed in the heart of Asia 600 years ago. It suggests that while the people of the Caucasus were fermenting milk in goat skins, the people of the Tarim Basin were doing the same, maintaining a fermentation culture that would eventually spread into Tibet and East Asia. Now, let's pause for a second to appreciate what kefir actually is, because this isn't just about yogurt. If you go to the store and buy yogurt, it is typically fermented by just one or two types of bacteria. It is a relatively simple biological process. Kefir is different. Kefir is a biological metropolis. It is made using kefir grains. These aren't grains like wheat or rice. They are cauliflower-like clumps of ascorbia, which stands for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. These grains are a complex matrix of proteins and sugars that house dozens of different species of bacteria and yeasts living in perfect harmony. This complexity makes kefir incredibly robust. If you drop a spoonful of commercial yogurt into milk, it might ferment a few times before the culture weakens and dies. But kefir grains are immortal. As long as they are fed fresh milk, they grow and reproduce. The grains found on the mummies are the direct ancestors of the grains people use in their kitchens today. In the Caucasus, legends claimed that kefir grains were a gift from the Prophet Muhammad, given with the strict instruction that the secret must never be revealed to outsiders, lest they lose their magic. The Xiaohe discovery offers a scientific counter-narrative. It tells us that these magic grains were being exchanged across the vast distances of the Eurasian steppe, long before recorded history. They were likely carried in leather pouches by nomads, a portable biotechnology that could turn perishable milk into a preserved, nutrient-dense superfood. But why were the Xiaohe people buried with cheese? Why wear it around your neck like a talisman? The answer lies in their genes. The genetic analysis of the mummies revealed that the Xiaohe people were lactose intolerant. Like most adults in the ancient world, and indeed many people today, they lacked the lactase enzyme required to digest milk sugar. Drinking fresh milk would have caused them severe bloating, cramps, and diarrhea. In a desert environment where dehydration can kill you very quickly, drinking fresh milk could actually be dangerous. Fermentation was their technological solution. It was a life hack. When kefir grains are added to milk, the bacteria and yeasts consume the lactose, converting it into lactic acid, alcohol, and carbon dioxide. This process reduces the lactose content significantly, turning an indigestible poison into a digestible staple. The cheese found on the mummies was a kefir cheese, which means they likely strained the liquid whey from the fermented kefir, leaving behind the solid curds. This concentration process would have reduced the lactose even further. The DNA analysis also revealed another fascinating detail about their cheese-making process. They kept their milks separate. The researchers found distinct batches of pure cow milk cheese and pure goat milk cheese. In contrast, ancient cheesemakers in places like Greece and the Middle East often mixed milks from different animals in a single vat. The Xiaohe practice suggests a highly organized system of animal husbandry. They weren't just throwing everything into a pot. They were artisanal producers who perhaps valued the distinct flavors or properties of different milks. But perhaps the most profound aspect of this study is what it tells us about evolution. By comparing the 600-year-old bacteria with modern strains, scientists could watch evolution in action. Over the last 3 millennia, Lactobacillus kefiranofaciens has changed. The ancient strain possessed genes that were likely more aggressive, triggering a stronger immune response in the human gut. As humans and these bacteria lived together for thousands of years, a process of co-domestication occurred. We didn't just domesticate the cows and the goats, we domesticated the microbes. The modern strains of kefir bacteria have lost some of those aggressive traits. They have evolved to be better guests, surviving in the human gut without setting off alarm bells in our immune system. The study also revealed that the bacteria were swapping genes with other microbes through a process called horizontal gene transfer. This is how bacteria upgrade their software. The ancient bacteria had acquired gene clusters that helped them survive the stress of the fermentation process and the harsh environment of the gut. This is a rare glimpse into the Red Queen race of evolution, where humans and microbes are constantly adapting to one another. The Xiaohe people were unknowingly shaping the genome of these bacteria every time they made a new batch of cheese. This discovery also rewrites our understanding of ancient trade. We often think of the Silk Road as a network of trade routes established during the Han Dynasty for silk and spices. But the probiotic mummy proves that a bio-silk road existed thousands of years earlier. Pastoralists, The nomadic herders of the steppe were the internet of the Bronze Age. As they moved their herds across the vast steppes of Eurasia, they carried technologies, languages, and genes. Kefir grains cannot spontaneously pop into existence. They must be physically transferred from one person to another. The presence of Tibetan-related kefir strains in the Tarim Basin indicates that there was significant contact between the people of the Xinjiang Desert and the people of the Tibetan Plateau. This trade wasn't just about goods, it was about survival. In a world before refrigeration, a starter culture that could preserve milk was a technology as valuable as fire. It allowed these populations to thrive in marginal environments where agriculture was difficult. So, why bury the dead with cheese? The placement around the neck suggests it held spiritual significance. In many ancient cultures, the dead were buried with provisions for the afterlife. For the Xiaohe people, cheese was the ultimate travel food. It was shelf-stable, calorie-dense, and hydrating. But perhaps it was also a symbol of their identity. In a landscape of sand and wind, their ability to harness the power of milk and microbes was what kept them alive. To be buried with their kefir culture was to be buried with the essence of their civilization. This study of the Xiaohe cheese is a landmark moment in the emerging field of paleomicrobiology. For a long time, archaeology was about macro artifacts, arrowheads, pottery, walls. Then came the era of human ancient DNA, which taught us who our ancestors were. Now we are entering the era of the ancient microbiome. We are beginning to sequence the DNA of the invisible world that surrounded and lived inside our ancestors. This discovery joins a growing list of resurrected ancient foods. Scientists have recently extracted yeast from 400-500-year-old Egyptian pottery to bake pharaonic bread and brew ancient beer. They have analyzed the plaque on Neanderthal teeth to see what they were eating. These studies are not just novelties. They hold the potential to unlock lost biological diversity. Our modern food systems rely on a tiny handful of industrialized bacterial strains. The vast majority of the yogurt and cheese in the supermarket is made with a few specific monocultures. The ancient world was a reservoir of microbial biodiversity. By sequencing these ancient strains, we might find bacteria with properties we have lost, strains that are better at preserving food, better for our gut health, or more resistant to environmental change. The probiotic mummy is a reminder that history is not just written in books or carved in stone. It is written in the DNA of the things we touch, eat, and carry with us. When we drink a glass of kefir today, we are participating in a ritual that is unbroken for nearly 4,000 years. We are consuming the descendants of the same invisible creatures that the beauty of Xiaohe wore around her neck as she was laid to rest in her boat coffin, sailing into the eternity of the desert sands. The Xiaohe people may have vanished, their language lost and their cities buried, but their culture survives in the most unexpected of places, in the refrigerator of a health food store, in the bubbling jar on a kitchen counter, and in the microscopic legacy of the bacteria they tamed. They have, in a very real sense, achieve the immortality they sought. That's it for today's deep dive into the fascinating world of ancient biotechnology. Thanks for listening to G Fun Facts Online.